What is going on, you guys? Welcome to the RBS Cinema podcast. I want to play a game. Do you want to play a game?
Oh, yeah.
I want to play a game.
All right, cool. So, that should be a telltale sign of what we're going to talk about today. We're talking about Saw. Because it is the 20-year anniversary of one of my favorite horror franchises of all time. And I thought, why not talk about one of the things that actually kicked me off to be a horror fan in general, with Saw. And I don't know if we'll talk about the other ones later on. Obviously, we're not going to go back to back for all 10 of them. Because yes, there are 10 of these movies. But right off the bat, I do want to say this one, because we're talking about the first one specifically, I think this is definitely like one of the best in the series. Because like the first three are good, but the first one is like, top tier in the series. But otherwise, like some fans and some people that have seen this franchise are just like, oh yeah, like the third, like it pretty much just fell off after the third one, because then they just got convoluted. They started adding in bullshit and whatever. So it's like, okay, cool. But yes, so we're talking about Saw today. And for those of you that are new to the podcast, what we're going to be doing is talking about the movie scene for scene. And we're going to switch it up a little bit since we've been doing this a little bit here. I'm your host, Devin, and I am joined by my good friend, Sam. And we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the movie. We're going to talk about who directed it, starred in it, all the nitty-gritty stuff, and then we'll talk about the movie in general. Excuse me while I take a drink of water. It's a lot of talking. And then we'll, at the end of the episode, we will give our consensus on whether, being the reason this is called RBS, is rent, buy, or skip on the movie. Rent just means that you want to just occasionally watch it once in a while. You'll watch it on Netflix if it's on there, or like you'll just casually watch it on TV if it's on. Buy just means that you will go out and buy it to put on the shelf. You will have it, you will cherish it because it is your movie, it's your favorite. And then skip is just like, okay, I saw it once, that's enough. I'm not going back and watching it. So that's the whole consensus of this, and then we'll add in some fun stuff as well. So let's get right into the whole thing here. So director was James Wan, big, huge movie director for horror stuff. Because he not only did this movie, he also did some of the Insidious movies. I don't know if he's done all of them. I can't remember.
I do not believe so.
I know that he directed the first one for sure. Maybe the second one. I don't remember. But he's also done like a few others, like Malignant. I don't know if you've seen that, but that one wasn't that good, honestly. Now, there could be some people out there that really like Malignant. I watched it with my wife when it first came out on streaming. It was not great. It had, spoiler alert, a plot twist. And I'm just like, no, that's so dumb. Why? And the way that they, like, did it was just like, what? Huh? Like, oh my god. And then just like feeding you all this information. It's just like, the hell? So, yeah, it's dumb. And then writers was actually, I don't really know how to pronounce his name, but Lee Whannell and James Wan. James Wan also wrote it. And Lee Whannell is actually one of the guys in the movie. So he also stars in it as well. Mm-hmm. He's Adam.
He's Adam, yes.
So, and then of course we got Cary Elwes. I never remember how to say his name, but he was from The Princess Bride, Men in Tights, and those types of movies.
We're men in tights.
We're men in tights.
Believe it or not, Danny Glover's in this. So that, when I first watched this, I didn't know who Danny Glover was. And then, like, I've seen multiple stuff that he's been in, and I'm like, they got Danny Glover to be in this, like, small production movie.
I'm too old for this shit.
that now blew up into a huge horror franchise. And then you've got Tobin Bell, who plays as Jigsaw himself, and he's just been synonymous throughout the whole series. Became a huge horror icon for people that love horror movies.
Next to Billy's face, probably about as equal. Seeing.
Yeah. Because like you don't really think of Tobin Bell being Jigsaw in the movies. You think of Billy the puppet. Who is
a caricature.
This guy. So like literally the puppet. That's what everybody thinks that who Jigsaw is, but he's not. He's just Billy the puppet. But
he's the only face they have.
They just needed a mascot for the Jigsaw murders. That's all it was. And then even because they made Jigsaw, and on the poster it was Tobin Bell in makeup dressed as Billy the puppet. So his face was all white and he had the swirl on his cheek and everything. So
synonymous.
So very synonymous with the series. And then we've got who is it? Yeah, Tobin Bell, and then Ken Lon and Michael Emerson. So got a few of those people in here, but definitely kind of like a small cast, kind of like when we talked about The Thing last week, like just a pretty small, tight cast. Not really a whole lot of key players in this, of course. So, but yeah, so we'll get into it now, talking about the movie itself. So when I first queued up the movie, I noticed the logos. The logos pop off every time for these movies. Because you've got Lionsgate and you've also got Twisted Pictures. Twisted Pictures, I've always loved seeing their logo pop up, especially for the Saw movies. Because you literally just have Twisted Pictures and just barbed wire around the logo. And then you have a spike come down in the middle and it's just in between the barbed wire. It twists and it tightens up the barbed wire and then it like spins out and it leaves the logo of Twisted Pictures like all cut up because of the barbed wire, and then you just have a single piece of barbed wire going around the spike. Super cool animation. I love it every time I watch it.
Gives it a certain edginess.
Right. And it's also kind of like those types of logos I feel like are synonymous with certain types of movies, you know? Like Twisted Pictures with the Saw franchise, probably some others I don't really know for sure. But you've also got like the DreamWorks logo with the kid on the moon and like fishing. So like that's synonymous with DreamWorks.
You know you're in for a good time just seeing what you're seeing before
right.
you even
Just
see
just by looking
screen.
at the logo coming in, and it's like, dude, I know I'm in for a blast right now. Because like nothing says spooky like a railroad spike coming down in barbed wire and then just like cutting up the logo. Like it's great. It's awesome. And then of course like Lionsgate, throughout the years they've changed it to where like you see the gears shifting. It's kind of like a giant metal door, and then you go through the keyhole and then it opens up and it's just like evangelical just like sky with clouds and just bright colors and everything. It's just like, why is this in my horror movie? You had me in the first half, now you lost me. So
the good news is that we will get caught up in it once again. It will turn.
Because like the Lionsgate logo plays first, and then the Twisted Pictures logo plays first.
Yeah.
And when I was watching this, because I take notes for the movies, so I wrote down worst escape room ever. Because that's pretty much what it is. It's literally an escape room. Because throughout the whole movie, they give you clues. Well, more specifically, Jigsaw gives you clues in order to like escape your thing, but just as a deadly way of doing it. So in this case, you know, like you gotta hack off your foot to get out of the trap. You know, that's just how it is. But otherwise, it's an escape room. Like you try to uncover the clues, trying to make sense of what's happening around you. It's like, okay, I gotta do this over here. I gotta do this puzzle. Blah 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 blah. So that was like my first thought was like, it's an escape room. Like, the hell?
First glance, yeah.
Yeah, but otherwise, this is what got me into horror movies was because of my grandfather. Me and my grandfather growing up, we would go to Hollywood Video because that's what we had, and of course Blockbuster, but we mostly went to Hollywood Video, and we went to go and just rent out movies. So he would let me rent out whatever movies I wanted. Versus him, he would just get horror movies because or like action movies. So that was my big introduction of like horror movies, was because of him. Because I saw Scream, I saw, I never saw Nightmare Before, not Nightmare Before Christmas, Nightmare on Elm Street, or Halloween, The Nightmare. Nightmare. And but yeah, I remember the Saw movies because I remember that we watched like pretty much all of them that were out for the time. I think it was up to 4, if I remember.
So 2007.
I think so. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's something like that. But like that was the biggest thing for me, and that was my connection with my grandfather. So it was just like horror movies and action movies that we would watch. Because like I remember seeing Lethal Weapon 4 with Jet Li, and I didn't remember what it was up until like I bought it on digital for the 4 movie collection, and I watched all of them, and I got towards the end of the 4th one, and they're both going to fight Jet Li like underneath the bridge, and I was all like, oh shit, I remember this part being with my grandfather, but I never had that connection going like, yeah, I watched Lethal Weapon 4 because that one had Jet Li and whatever. But up until I saw that moment, it brought me back to, oh shit, I remember this now. Just that part by itself. I didn't remember anything about the movie, but I just remember that scene specifically. So, and, but yeah, so getting back into the movie, we open up to Adam being in the bathtub, just in water, like underwater in the bathtub, and he wakes up, he unplugs the drain, and because like there's a glowing key floating around him, and it goes down the drain, and we don't know that it's a key, you just see it as a light, and we only find out because of at the end of the movie, Jigsaw gets up and he goes like, yeah, the key to that chain is in that bathtub. And then it cuts to at the end, or at the beginning, when he wakes up and then the key goes down the drain. So if he didn't unplug the drain on accident, because I don't think that he would do it on purpose, but because he accidentally did that, he basically just lost the easiest way to leave because of that. If that didn't happen, but of course, we wouldn't have a movie if it was that simple. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the thing. And then, like, he's just getting up, he's just like curious about what's going on and why it's dark and everything. We have our introductions, but yeah, so he's just like screaming for help, and he's just like, Dr. Gordon is on the other side, and he's just like, hey, shut the fuck up, like, I already did that. And it's all like, okay, like, he's still confused like you were when you first woke up, and he is still screaming, and he goes like, turn on the lights. Literally, Dr. Gordon just says like, I've already like looked around and I didn't find any lights. And he actually finds the light switch and he brings it up. And then and I noticed this, it was only 2 inches from his shoulder when he first actually like turned them on. And I'm like, you didn't look very hard now, did you? Because all you have is just the floor and the wall. That's it. You could have just felt around the wall and actually turned it on. But regardless, but yeah, I don't want to get too much into the details of it, because like there's not really much to this movie. It's just 2 guys trying to figure out how the hell to escape this bathroom. That's pretty much it, besides some side story stuff about like detectives and trying to figure out who Jigsaw is and like who the killer is and how to catch them. But otherwise, yeah, they figure out that they're in this like prehistoric bathroom, and they are chained to pipes in there, and they're just trying to figure out on how the hell that they can get out of there. And so I just have down some notes that I wanted to go down here real quick. So yeah, I wrote down, like, can't turn on lights even though it's 2 inches away. I'm just like, the hell. And they start asking each other like, oh, like, what's the last thing that you remember before waking up here? And one of my favorite lines is Adam saying to Dr. Gordon, just going like, I don't remember anything. I went to bed in my shithole apartment and woke up in an actual shithole. Like,
my life did not change. What the hell?
Yeah. Like, the only thing that changed was the scenery. Otherwise, I'm still in a shithole situation. So, and then he, like, starts, like, checking out his body because, of course, he woke up in a bathtub. So he immediately assumes that somebody just took his kidneys. And he lifts up his shirt, checking himself out. Dr. Gordon goes like, what the hell are you doing? He just goes like, again, I wrote down some of the funniest, memorable parts of the movies that I remember is like, let's see here. Yeah, see any scars? This is what they do, man. They kidnap you and drug you. Before you know it, you're lying in the bathtub and your kidneys are on eBay. And I'm just like, that's an actual funny line. Just because of the fact that it's just like, you know, he's checking himself out, which is reasonable because, like I said, you wake up in a bathtub full of water and you have no idea what the hell's happening. So
notice he said eBay, not Amazon.
Yeah, I know. Like
different times.
Yeah,
different times.
But it's also the thing of like just throwing out eBay because I know a lot of people aren't aware of the dark web, to where like, you know, you can buy weapons of mass destruction on there and also organs. So
to name a few.
Not that you should do that, but and so yeah, so they're going through all this bunch of stuff. And Adam goes to like check his pockets. He finds an envelope with his name on it, rips it open. There's a cassette that just says "Play Me." Dr. Gordon sees this and he goes like, "Where'd you get that?" And he goes, "I can check my pocket." That would be literally the second thing I would do if I was in that kind of a situation: check my pockets, because you don't know what's in your pockets. You wouldn't automatically assume, "Oh yeah, I got my phone, wallet, and keys, and chapstick." If you have chapstick, but otherwise. That was literally going to be the second thing that you would check in any situation. Like, first, survey where you're at. 2, check to see, like if it's dark, turn on the lights if you can. And then 3 is check your pockets because you don't know what the hell's in your pockets. So Dr. Gordon checks his pocket. He sees the same thing. Only his has a key with it and a bullet. So there's also that as well. And then you come to find out later on, because they also see that there's a dead guy in the middle of the room, just full of blood around him with a gun and a tape recorder. Mm-hmm. And they try to get the tape recorder. Adam finally gets it after tying the bathtub plug around his shirt, and he's able to loop it around the little loop that is on the tape recorder. Gets that, plays the tape, and again, I have a quote here, and it's just like, "Rise and shine, Adam. You're probably wondering where you are. I'll tell you where you might be. You might be in the room that you die in." Which, spoiler alert, he does die in the bathroom, just of natural causes. But he is just like in disbelief of what's happening, and then Dr. Gordon asks him, like, "Throw me the recorder so that I can play my tape." And he goes like, "No, I'm not going to risk breaking it. Like, you throw me your tape." So Gordon has to trust him because he's the only other person in the room, and they have to work together in order to escape. So he throws it and plays the recorder, puts it in, and he explains to him that like, "Oh, there's only one way that you can escape. Like, you have up until 6 o'clock to kill Adam. And like, you're a doctor, you save lives. Now you got to take one in order to escape and save your family." And he is in, again, they're both in just disbelief about this whole situation that they're in, but they would later on find out like, okay, like this is what's happening, essentially. But they, checking my notes here real quick. But yeah. Dr. Gordon hears something on the tape recorder, and Adam throws him the recorder, and so he plays it on full blast, and at the very end he says, "Follow your heart." And so they check the toilet, and again, this isn't meant to be a comedy, but I feel like now watching it after 20 years of this being a thing, it's super funny because it's just like, you have this toilet, very disgusting, you've got poop water in the bowl, and he goes in elbow deep into the toilet. And Dr. Gordon goes like, "Did you find anything?" He goes like, "No solids." So it's all just like, and I don't think it's like a squishy mess either. I think it's just poop water. And he goes like, "We'll check the tank." And he like lifts off the lid, checks in there, and he goes like, "Well, I really wish I would have checked in there first." It's just like, wouldn't that be the first thing that you would check though? Like,
my first instinct would be
right. Like, I feel like that would be their first instinct is check the tub, and if nothing's in there, then you check the bowl, not the other way around. Because now you got poop water all over your hand, and now your hand just smells like poop. So
no TP.
Yeah, with no TP for your butthole.
TP for my bunghole?
And he finds this bag, rips it open, finds a couple of hand saws, and he just starts going away at the chain. And Dr. Gordon goes like, "Hey, do you mind throwing me the other one?" And he throws it at him, and then he throws the trash bag into the bathtub, and he, so they both start going to town on the chain with their hand saws, and Adams breaks on him, and so he gets pissed off, just starts throwing a hissy fit, and he throws the broken handle at the mirror, and a piece of the corner of it breaks off and lands towards him. Reason why that I mention this is because that later on he finds out that it's a two-way mirror, and after that whole encounter with, you know, like Adam breaking his handsaw, Dr. Gordon then realizes, which is synonymous with this movie, like, oh, he doesn't want us to cut through the chains. He wants us to cut through our feet.
Dun dun dun.
He doesn't want us to cut through our chains. He wants us to cut through our feet.
So I think that is synonymous with this movie. Is like, that's even in the trailer, because I remember the trailer, and it's like, oh, he doesn't want us to cut through the chains. He wants to cut through our feet, and like that was the whole thing. Of like dun 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 dun, and just like figuring out what the real thing is. But again, at the end of the movie, come to find out there was actually a key for the chain to unlock yourself from the pipe, so that way you can leave. But you know, you don't really know about any of this up until the end of the movie, and but Dr. Gordon then like starts telling Adam like, oh, I think I know who's doing this to us, and it's Jigsaw. And he goes like, he's not a murderer per se, he just puts his victims into traps, and then they basically kill themselves.
Flashback time.
Yeah, so multiple flashbacks, multiple cuts of going from present to back then to present to back then, and it's all like, I understand trying to get this sort of vibe, but really it's all like, okay, can we just get on with the whole story? So flashback to these detectives, they find a saw trap of this guy just being like hung up with barbed wire in a cage. And basically his whole thing that Jigsaw pointed out, because Jigsaw purposefully finds people that don't appreciate their lives or being alive in that matter. So first victim that we see is him, basically Jigsaw is talking to him on a tape recorder and just basically saying like, oh yeah, you know, like you're a perfectly healthy guy, you know, like you're very sane, like you're not crazy, you know, like nothing's wrong with you, but you decided to take a razor to your wrist, basically to try to kill yourself. And like, did that to kill yourself, or did you do that just for or just to get attention? And so he goes like, I'm afraid you're gonna have to cut, like you're gonna have to, okay, in order to escape you have to cut yourself, but if you just want to die, you're just gonna sit right where you are. So
puts it on its head, basically.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, you can either stand here and die, because, you know, like the door to your escape is set on a timer. That will get done at like 3, and it's 1 o'clock at that point. So he's got 2 hours to escape, and otherwise the door is just going to be shut forever and you can never escape. And he doesn't make it out, and the detectives are like dissecting all this stuff, and then they find another victim of Jigsaw's, where now it's this guy that is just basically what is it? Being caught on fire, or Basically, he's charboiled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's one of those situations where I don't know if it was really going to have a solution. Like,
Right.
It probably was, but it was... When it comes to what Jigsaw does, he is more fair in some challenges or some traps per se than other people.
Yeah.
And we don't really understand, even to this day, really why he chose certain people with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the point is that he's seen these people operate in their normal everyday lives in some capacity, and he didn't appreciate all of them.
Yeah.
Some more than some less than others.
Right, because like later on in the series, you come to find out that one of the detectives, Detective Hoffman, that's his name, not Dustin Hoffman. That'd be really weird if he was in this series. But Detective Hoffman, he was an underling of Jigsaw, and he helped him with setting up traps and send the people in the traps and stuff. And at some point in the movies, he's just there because, like, after the third one, Jigsaw dies, and he basically takes over as Jigsaw from that point on. And in some traps, there's no way to win it. Like, it's rigged from the start. Like, you could try to undo the lock and try to get out of it, but you know, there's some way that he can finagle it to where you just are going to die, regardless if you win or not. And in that kind of a situation, like especially with the second victim, I feel like that's what it was. Because later on throughout the franchise, you come to find out that he's been with Jigsaw from before the first one, setting up the traps and helping him and do stuff. And, but they're talking about the victim, and there's broken shards of glass all over the floor, and the guy, again, Jigsaw tells him that, like, well, you keep saying that you're sick. Let's see how sick you really are. I put a slow-acting poison in your body, and the combination to the safe for the antidote is written on the walls. And just be careful, because there's a flammable substance on your body. So I'd be careful with that candle. And he has on a small tray the recorder, a small candle, a book of matches, and if I remember, I think that was it. So, but yeah, he walks around the room with this little candle, trying to find out what the combination is, and walks over to the safe, tries to unlock it, and of course, he gets engulfed in flames, and then he's just burned alive. And they find out that, like, oh yeah, Jigsaw likes to, like, basically be a creep and watch his victims just do this, so there's little people. And then they find a pen light that belonged to Dr. Gordon. And that's the reason why that he was pointing the direction on going to basically question the doctor.
This is where he becomes involved in the story.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's Tap and Singh that go, and like they're doing this case, and so they go and they question Dr. Gordon, and they're like, hey, you know, like, where were you last night? And he goes like, okay, well, what is this about? They're like, well, we want you to come down to the station and we'll tell you there. And they go to the station, they question him, and he's talking to his lawyer, and he goes like, I don't see why I have to prove where I was last night. And he goes like, well, I think it's definitely warranted, because you're basically being framed for murder, so I would tell them where you were and what you were doing the night before. And Dr. Gordon just goes like, all right, well, you know what, I was seeing somebody and it wasn't a patient. He goes like, oh, okay. So basically sleeping with somebody that wasn't his wife, essentially, like cheating on her. And they go like, okay, your alibi checks out. Like, Singh comes into the room, tells him this, and he goes like, but we want you to stay just to hear this person's testimony that won one of Jigsaw's games, and being Amanda. So Tab is talking to Amanda, basically explain to us what happened, and, you know, like, how you won.
And Gordon's watching this on the side.
Yes. And so she starts explaining what happened. She wakes up in a room. She's tied to a chair with this, like, contraption on her head, and she just tastes blood and metal in her mouth. And I'm just like, okay, another great line of dialogue. TV comes on, and again, very synonymous scene. I think this is probably the second best scene that happens throughout the whole movie, because everybody remembers in the first movie the bathroom scene and Amanda's scene when she tries to escape the bear trap. or the reverse bear trap. And those two things in the movie are very synonymous with the whole series. Like, I definitely want to get a saw tattoo, and I'm thinking about just getting like a blueprint or something of the bear trap headgear, and I think that'd be pretty cool.
Which is terrifying that it is actually a functional.
Yeah. Like they built it and it works.
It would actually achieve its goal.
Yeah.
It is not a prop.
Right.
It is a prop, but it is not a prop.
Right. At the same time.
Like, they had safety people on the sides just in case something actually went wrong with this device.
And I don't think that it would have actually ripped her face open.
No, just the metal.
Just to like hurt. I feel like, especially with the metal just being in her mouth too. So. Because, I don't think that they built it to where it actually snap open and actually, like,
But if they rigged it that way, it would. And that's what's so terrifying.
Oh, 100%. And
works.
So, TV comes on. Billy the Puppet comes on. Yay, it's my favorite show. It's Billy the Puppet. And he basically goes like...
Hello, Amanda. You don't know me, but I know you. I want to play a game.
Again, great quote from the movie.
I want to play a game.
And that's been synonymous throughout the whole series. It's like, I want to play a game.
I want to play a game.
It's so scary. He calls it a game.
It's so good because it's like, games are supposed to be playful and fun, and this isn't playful or fun. I'm being strapped to a chair with a metal device around my head that's going to kill me. Like, I'm not having fun right now. Make it stop.
One Candyland pack, all right?
Yeah, I want to go down the chocolate mountain. That's what I want to do. What was it? Like, I'm tired of this, Grandpa. Too damn bad. You keep digging.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
That's too damn bad! You keep digging!
You keep playing.
Yeah, you keep playing. I don't want to play anymore. I think that's one of the victims of what they say, too. Is like, I don't want to play anymore. Well, too bad. You're playing anyway. So, again, great dialogue there. And he shows her the device being on a styrofoam head dummy. And he goes like, this is what's going to happen to you if, you don't actually unlock the lock by the time the timer runs out, and just like, poof, just puff of smoke, bits. Like, there's nothing left.
Your mouth will be permanently ripped open. Think of it like a reverse bear trap. Here, I'll show you.
Later on in, I think it's chapter 5, that isn't what actually happens. It doesn't just like rip your face. Well, it does rip your face open, but not that much. It basically just like breaks your jaw, essentially. So it doesn't do like what's her name from Beetlejuice, where she like rips her face open and she just has her eyeballs in her throat. Like, it doesn't do that. Like, it doesn't just like rip her face completely backwards. So she's then explained as where in order to unlock the lock, the key is in your dead cellmate. So she goes over to her cellmate and come to find out that he's actually alive, and they tell Dr. Gordon that he was giving a drug and that he was not able to actually like be able to move and stuff. And so she like cuts him open, she finds a knife laying next to him, cuts him open, gets the key, and then so she's able to escape, throws the device off her head just mere seconds before it went off, because as soon as she throws it off, it then goes off. And I'm just like, holy crap, like that was like a pube of a second that could have happened.
She's just crying at the sheer fact that she's still alive.
Yeah, and she's freaking out. And then, again, this whole scene is just awesome. And Billy the Puppet comes in on his tricycle. And, again, another great quote where he basically Oh, the one thing I didn't say was like live or die, make your choice. That was at the end of the video that was shown by like to Amanda, which I forgot. My apologies. But yeah, so he comes in and he goes like, "Congrats. Most people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you, not anymore."
Congratulations, you are still alive. Most people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you, not anymore.
And I'm like, again, such a great quote. Like, I forgot how good this movie was specifically up until I watched it earlier this week. And I'm just like, oh my god, like, stop. I can only get so erect. Please stop. Like,
My penis can only get so erect.
Phrasing.
yeah. But yeah, so they go back to cut back to them being in the bathroom, and they're still trying to figure stuff out on how to get out of there. And let's see, going through my notes. Oh, but before that, like, the detectives are trying to figure out where Jigsaw is, because Tab keeps going back and forth on the tape that Amanda was shown, and they find out that there's a graffiti on one of the walls, and then they also hear a fire alarm in like the background. So then they get the thing of going like, okay, well, this gang has a 4-block radius, so we can narrow it down to there. Now trying to find out what the fire alarm with any emergencies that happened around that area. So then they find it at this warehouse. They go in, they investigate. They find 3 sheets that are covering like these different parts of this warehouse, revealing one, it's a replica of the bathroom. They don't understand what it is, but of course we do because we're the audience, because it's already playing right now. Unveil the second one, it's Billy the Puppet with the pig mask. And then the third one is like this guy, he's strapped to a chair. Again, I don't know what it is with strapping people to chairs. I think it's the easiest way to like basically constrain somebody. With drills on the other side of his neck. And they're like, okay, we're going to get this bastard. Let's hide somewhere and then we'll catch him. Well, they do catch him. Tab has him on his knees and he activates the game for this regular Joe Schmo that we don't even... Like, his name's Jeff. That's all we know. But we don't know any affiliation besides that.
My name is Jeff.
Yeah.
My name is Jeff.
My name is Jeff. And so Cena's trying to basically stop the device, trying to get the key, because like there's a shit ton of them, and can't do it. So then he just shoots the drills, and that stops him. And while Sing's doing that, Jigsaw pulls out a knife, and it's not just a regular knife. It looks like it's like the top part of a sword that comes out of his wrist. So you could say he's an assassin from Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
So
We got Ezio up in here.
he's got a hidden blade, okay, and he like cuts Tap's throat, and slightly. It doesn't kill him because it doesn't go that deep, but it goes around like the side. Yeah, and Scene runs after him with the shotgun, goes downstairs, shoots him, and so Jigsaw's down. Well, he continues to walk towards him. Unbeknownst to him, comes across a tripwire, 5 shotguns above him, and just boof, and now he's just dead. So there's that. And
You could say he sung
yeah.
his last song.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. Because
No
he's not singing no more.
He ain't singing no more.
And Tab actually manages to go downstairs and see Sing is dead on the floor, and then Jigsaw gets up and then walks out. I also have in my notes written down that slow-mo getaway, because he was walking out towards the door to open it. It's just like in slow motion. So like, why is this in slow motion? I think to like basically have the creep factor go like, he's getting up, what? And it's all like, I don't really think he was shot, because there wasn't any like pellets holes in his jacket that he was wearing.
It was to bring Sing further.
Right.
And achieve
the kill. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so basically, we'll cut around the fat here, and one of the things that I actually really liked about this scene was Jigsaw's dialogue, because he's talking to Tap, and Tap says, you're a sick bastard, and again, great quote from Tobin Bell of him just saying
Sick from the disease eating away at me inside. Sick of people who don't appreciate their blessings. Sick of those who scoff at the suffering of others. Sick of it all.
and then that's when he extends his basically blade out and then cuts Tap, and then that's how he gets away. Again, great thing. But yeah, they find so again, I'll cut around the fat, because again, not a lot really happens throughout the movie that much. So, but essentially they try to do all this bunch of stuff. Dr. Gordon gets told in a box on a card that says, think about it. You don't need a gun to kill Adam, because there's 2 cigarettes, a phone, and a lighter in there, as well as the card. And in the beginning of the recording that they play, Jigsaw says, when you have that much poison in your veins, you have no other option but to put a bullet in your head. And that's why the guy is there on the floor. And he turns off the lights. He whispers to Adam that, hey, I have this plan. I'm going to dip the cigarette in this blood because there's supposed to be poison in this. I'm going to give you the other cigarette. You're going to act like you're dead. Oh, yeah. Before this happens, they find out that the mirror is a two-way mirror, and they break it, and it's a veil of a camera in there. And
so they know they're being watched.
Yeah, they know they're being watched. And Adam says, oh, that's what this is. This is reality TV. And he goes, people are just fucking with us. He goes, this is the most fun I've had without lubricant. I'm just again, funny dialogue from Adam.
Very sarcastic human being.
Oh, 100%. Throughout this whole time, he treats everything like it's a joke. But obviously, he doesn't think that it's a joke because it's obviously happening. But otherwise, it's a joke.
It's his cope.
Yeah. He's coping with it through comedy.
Total copium.
Like me. Just walking around life going my dick. And that's a drum roll. And so he fakes basically being killed by the poison, and then he gets electrocuted by the chain. And he's just ah! And then we'll cut to a clip of that too. And it's so funny.
His face is
yeah, just him trying to basically fake choking, and then just him falling on the floor, and then him just closing his eyes. It's really funny. Again, I don't think any of this is intentional to be funny, but it just happens to be. Mm-hmm. And going through my notes here, after he wakes up from being electrocuted, he then remembers how he got there, and he goes up to his apartment because he's a photographer that walks around with but he basically gets pictures of rich assholes that they're doing stuff that they're not supposed to be doing. So politicians, maybe not politicians, rich billionaires, that type of thing. Basically Dr. Gordon, who has a lot of money, who has secrets to hide. But yeah, then he goes to his red room. He does some pictures up, bless you, and he has a picture of Dr. Gordon. And then we find out, he's following Dr. Gordon to take pictures of him. And he then falls asleep, wakes up in pitch darkness, walks around his apartment, and doesn't have a flashlight. The lights don't work, so he's walking around in the dark. Has his flashlight, or not his flashlight, his camera that has a flash on it. My biggest thing with this is that why do you keep flashing your picture for your camera?
When you're trying to be covert.
Not when you're trying to be covert, when you're trying to, like, see what's going on, because your eyes can adjust to the dark. And, like, you know, when you have to wake up and go to the bathroom at 3 a.m., like, you instinctively know where you're going, but as soon as you turn on that light, like, you're blind for a second, because your eyes have to adjust to the brightness of the light. And then once you get done with your business, you turn it off, and now it's just, like, now you can't see. But if you give yourself enough time, your eyes will adjust to where you can actually see in the dark.
He also doesn't know if he has that amount of time, and that's what adds to the tension of the scene. Is that it's probably one of the quieter moments of this movie.
Yeah.
So the tension is very, very high here. Of like, I know somebody is here, and I don't hear them. I don't know where they're at.
Yep.
He's trying to find any advantage he can to blind the person. He could also be using it to blind the other person. Yeah. Which isn't a terrible strategy if you think about it in that kind of dark.
And to me, I don't think that's what he was thinking.
But I don't think he was.
No, he wasn't thinking that, like, strategically of go like, I'm gonna have a big brain moment. I'm gonna flash my camera at the perpetrator, and I'm gonna blind him while at the same time blinding myself. So, but he's walking around his apartment. He can hear stuff going on, and he goes like, "What the hell's happening?" And he finds Billy the puppet on his couch. Because he starts laughing. Again, the maniacal laugh track that they have for this puppet is awesome, too. Again, that is synonymous with the series as well, is the laugh that Billy the puppet has. Because as soon as you hear that, you're like, ah, shit. I know who's doing this now, and it's Jigsaw. So, but yeah, so he has a bat, and he smashes it, and he goes to a closet, he opens it, and then all of a sudden he gets attacked by somebody in a pig mask, being, you know, of course, Jigsaw. And that's how Dr. Gordon also got picked up, was that he was leaving garage, and he goes up to the phone, because on the wall it says, oh, if the gate is closed after 10 o'clock, if you need out, call security, like, this is the extension. So he tries that, nobody picks up because it's, you know, dead. And we see that the back door opens, guy in a pig mask is crawling on the floor towards him and then attacks him, and then that's how they both get abducted, is how we find out. And they're, again, you know, like, just bantering, going back and forth. And but yeah, basically we'll cut towards the end of this movie, because none of this stuff really matters at this point, because find out that basically his wife and daughter are being held kidnapped by Zepp, who is one of the orderlies at the hospital that he works at. Finds out about this. Now he's threatening to, like, basically kill Zepp. At 6 o'clock hits, Zepp basically electrocutes Dr. Gordon, and because, you know, he failed his test to kill Adam in order to leave. Well, his wife manages to get untied and then just basically wrestle around with Zepp, and then he is able, or she's able to get the gun, and, like, they get a call from the phone from his family, and they are able to, like, get away. And because Tap is living across the street from Dr. Gordon's house, finds the commotion of gunshots happening, he runs across the street, helps her get away by attacking Zepp, and then they get into a shootout at the house or apartment or whatever it is. And so Zepp goes to the warehouse to go and kill Dr. Gordon, and then Tap follows him, and then it's just a chase scene, and we'll cut to a clip of that because that's also funny. So just the like smash cut to both of them, just like yeah. It's like, what the hell is happening? So,
and I think it's fair to bring up here that the reason that Tap he lost his job.
Yeah.
As a part of
as the detective, because his partner died, and then he just spiraled out of control to where he was just like taken off the force and shit canned.
But he never trusted Dr. Gordon, and that's why he was scoping out Dr. Gordon's place for so long.
Yeah. Because like he was fixated on catching Jigsaw, and he wasn't 100% sure that
But he
it
figured
wasn't
that-
Dr. Gordon.
He figured Gordon might be the key to getting him.
Right.
Not knowing
That he was going
that
to
he
be
was
a
gonna
part,
be a part
of
of the test.
Yeah, a part of the game. But yeah, and while that's happening, like while they're on their way to the warehouse, Gordon starts getting a phone call because, like I said, you know, like
talking to his wife. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know, he threw it to the side after he got electrocuted, so it was out of his reach. And then this is the big, huge part of the movie where he just like ties up his leg and he just starts cutting off
Because
his
he thinks
his
they're
foot.
dead. He has no. He's like they're either dying or they're dead or nothing, and I can't do
because
anything.
the whole time he's screaming at Adam, like he goes like, I need to save my family. I need to get out of here. They're in trouble. I need to save them. Because he knows that Zep has them. He doesn't know what the hell's happening. So that's when he starts freaking out. And the line of dialogue that Adam has is like, all right, like, I get it. You want to save your family. I don't talk to my family, but that's on me. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not sympathizing with Dr. Gordon, where his family's actually in trouble. Your family's fine. Nobody gives a shit about you. Like, that's the other thing. Like, I thought that was, like, super funny. He goes, like, yeah, my family, like, I don't talk to my family, and that's on me. It's like, why are you talking about your family? Who gives a shit? Like,
your family's not getting shot at.
Yeah, like, your family's not on the other end of this phone. Like, you don't have a wife, you don't have a kid, you have nobody. You probably have your parents, if anything. And
Just your shithole apartment.
yeah, just you and your shithole apartment and the shithole of a bathroom. But yeah, so he starts freaking out because, like, of course, he can't talk to his family, so he hacks off his foot finally. And
while Adam's just screaming his damn head off.
Yeah, of going like, Lawrence, which is very funny because, I think it was last year I was watching this movie. I was like, oh man, it's Halloween season. I'm going to watch all the movies because it's great. I love it. It's my favorite. And it's late at night, and I fall asleep during the middle of this movie. And my wife is passed out next to me in bed, and she just wakes up to Adam screaming, Lawrence, oh my God. And, like, it's this scene where he's hacking off his foot. And so she, like, nudges me. She goes, like, hey, can you turn this shit off? Like, I literally just woke up the middle of the night, and, like, my wife had nightmares and still has nightmares, but not as severe as she did back then. But she wasn't getting very much sleep because she was having recurring nightmares and stuff. And so, like, she was taking medication to help that. And so, like, that wasn't helping her at all. So that was, like, super funny at the time. And so, like, we joke about that from time to time, too. Like, especially when we were talking about watching this movie. And so she goes, like, yeah, you'll have to mention that. I'm like, okay, cool. And so, yeah, so he finally hacks off his foot. And I think this scene specifically is funny in other sources of media. Because, like, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey.
Yes.
And he's watching, like, movies that he rented from, like, basically Blockbuster. And he rents Saw. And so it gets to this part, and he goes like, oh, come on, just hack the, just, like, cut your foot off and snap it off. It's already halfway through the bone. like, at the time when this first came out, yeah, this was, like, very gruesome and, like, very horrific and, like, very scary. Now it's just, like, a trope. It's like, dude, come on, just fucking hack off your foot and get it done and over with. It's like, now with Terrifier, now it's not as scary or spooky anymore. It's just like, oh, come on. You know, like, I know what's going to happen. Just cut your fucking foot off and fucking walk it off. Like, be a man. Like, type shit. And it's all like, if you're put in that kind of a situation, you're not thinking about that. You're trying every other angle to try to figure out a way to get out of it besides cut off your foot. Cutting off your foot is the last resort. But again, like I said at the beginning of this, worst escape room ever. Like, I think that would be funny. If we actually did, like, titles for episodes, I think that would be a really good title for Saw. It's like, worst escape room ever.
You could say he was losing his footing on the situation.
Yeah. While also simultaneously losing his mind. So yeah, he cuts off his foot, and then he puts the bullet in the chamber of the gun that the dead guy is holding, and he shoots at him. Zep comes in, tells Dr. Gordon that, you know, like, hey, you know, like, you still gotta die even though you basically killed Adam. And he cut off your foot.
Rules.
Yeah.
It's the rules.
And, like, well, and, like, just how serious he is, too, is, like, super funny. And,
I just love the way
like,
he says that.
I know that I haven't been saying like cut to a clip, but I'll add in clips throughout this whole thing too. It like some of this stuff is super funny, and he then gets attacked by Adam, who's not dead, who only got shot in the shoulder, and he kills Zep by bashing his head with the lid of the toilet, and
Because he hurts him so much.
yeah, I love you, bam.
I love you.
And he Dr. Gordon stops him, and he goes like, hey, I'm gonna run and go get help. He goes like, don't worry, I'll be right back. And so Adam checks his pockets trying to find a key to like get him out, because he thinks that he has the key because he's the mastermind, and he's not. So he finds a tape recorder, plays it, and then he finds out that Zep is just a small piece of this huge puzzle as well. That Jigsaw poisoned him. He goes like, if you want the antidote, you have to do this. Basically, hold Dr. Gordon's family hostage, basically, and if he doesn't kill Adam by 6 o'clock, kill them all. And then you can get the antidote for your poison. And while this is playing, the guy in the middle of the room just gets up and he rips off his skin on his head, because it just turns out that he was just sleeping the whole time, and he had makeup, like a special effects or something on his head, that made it seem like that he actually shot himself in the head. And then again, like I said earlier in the episode, he tells Adam the key to that chain is in that bathtub. And again, cut to the beginning of this movie where you see the key go down the drain.
And while this is going on, you're hearing the music.
Yeah, you're hearing the synonymous music of the whole thing, which is, again, such the cherry on top for this movie is top tier the music. Mm-hmm. Like, that music is great. I love the piano to this music. It's great. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I wish I could actually play it, but because of YouTube, can't really do it because it's copywritten. So, yeah. Thanks, YouTube. And he goes so then Adam goes to grab the gun that Zep had tried to kill Jigsaw, and then he just zaps him with the remote that he had while he's being electrocuted. The whole scenes of the movie are playing like one after another up until this point, and throughout the whole time, Jigsaw is also talking about like basically they cut a bunch of like the people's names, going like Dr. Gordon, Adam, Amanda, Zep, and he goes like, I want to play a game, that type of thing, doing his whole monologue of basically being like, most people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you, not anymore. And I love that they chose that end piece when he's walking towards the door. He shuts off the light. He opens the door. He shuts off the light. Adam is just screaming his head off of going like, no, don't. And he basically goes to close the door, and he goes like, game over, and just shuts it. And that
Most people are so ungrateful to be alive. But not you. Not anymore. Game over.
That's where the movie ends, with just Adam being there alone in the dark, still chained to the pipe, with him screaming his head off. And that's where the movie ends. So, yeah. So that's the end of Saw. But, yeah, I did want to, again, talk about certain things that happened in the movie, like favorite quotes. Because, like I said, this movie has so many memorable quotes. It's awesome. So, one of my favorite quotes, again, this movie is not meant to be a comedy, but it feels like it is now, because there's a scene in the movie where Adam is telling Dr. Gordon, like, oh yeah, I've been following you for days. Like, what were you doing at the hotel? And he goes like, you told me that you were at the hospital that night at work, like, doing your thing, like, working. He goes like, but you weren't. I followed you to a hotel. What were you doing in there? And like, Dr. Gordon just basically goes like, well, I don't have to tell you nothing. He goes like, dude, I don't care what you were doing. And I have it written here. Just gotta find it. Yeah, he says that. Yeah, he says, I don't give a crap if you recovered yourself in peanut butter and had a 15 hook of gangbang. It's just like, what pictures are you taking of people? Like,
What gave you such a frame of reference?
yeah, it's just like, why would you, how would you think about that?
What a waste of peanut butter.
Yeah, it's like perfectly good waste of peanut butter. Like, it's worse when you go to a friend's house and they just have a hole in the center of the peanut butter. It's just like, I'm not using your peanut butter, dude. Like, you're literally fucking your peanut butter. But yeah, I wanted to talk about some of the favorite scenes that's in this movie. Definitely the Amanda scene is like top tier, like probably number one favorite scene of the movie for me. What about you?
I mean, probably for me, I'm kind of more just what it comes to like certain elements that kind of sway the movie a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that the biggest moment is the reverse bear trap. Because up until that point, it's just, oh, he's a kidnapper. He puts people in rooms and you don't know what the hell's going to happen.
Yeah.
But then you see like a very visceral decisions have to be made.
Yeah.
Like up to this point, up to that point in the movie, there really wasn't too many scenes where they had to make immediate decisions. It's like 6 o'clock. That's 10 hours from now.
Yeah.
Whereas that
was in like
Amanda had 60
like
seconds.
minute.
She had 60 seconds once she got out of the chair to kill a man that she was told was put under, but then wakes up.
Well, she was told that he was dead, and so like she didn't have any repercussions
And he
because
opens
he's
his
already
eyes
dead.
right when she's about to cut him
Yeah, and
off.
so she realized that he's still alive. So
It's the first moments, I guess, of the movie where you actually see the seriousness of what a character is in.
Yeah.
And it's not even the main characters of this movie.
Oh yeah.
Which just kind of makes it just, it's for real.
Yeah.
Like this is how this is going to go down. And then of course just the iconicness of the reverse bear trap. It's hard to overcome. That is, for me, what Saw is all about, is about the atmosphere and what is going on.
Yeah.
And that is always centered around the traps.
Oh yeah.
And so
yeah, because like later on in the series, the traps get more elaborate and bigger and better, in my opinion. Because like there's some traps that are really dumb. There are some traps that are really good. Like, well, yeah, the third one where it's one of the guys, he's trapped in, I don't remember what it is, but he's put into a trap where his whole body is strapped to it. It's all metal, and as the timer goes, each part of his body that's strapped down, so like his head, arms, and his legs, they twist.
Please don't talk about the rack right now.
Oh yes, that's what it is. It's the rack.
Yeah.
So good.
But I guess that's kind of my point, is that these ones are very simple and raw. There isn't their simpleness in what they are going to achieve. It's like a parent that tells you exactly what's going to happen if you continue to do something. And you understand what the consequence is, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, it's like don't touch the stove. It's hot.
Dad's serious. Don't do this.
Yeah,
it's the same thing with this reverse bear trap. So that's why that's my favorite scene.
Yeah, definitely top tier scene for me. And then of course, like at the end, where Dr. Gordon hacks off his foot, and then he leaves, and then Jigsaw gets up, and then the whole thing comes full circle for the whole movie, and then especially him walking out with the audio playing the whole time of him, and then just him shutting the door, just saying game over.
Game over.
Then it leads to an awesome end track.
Yeah. And like those are my two favorite scenes throughout the whole movie. And then of course got little tidbits in there that are like pretty good scenes. But overall, just like those two scenes specifically are synonymous with the whole series. And like that's what catapulted this whole series and made it into a franchise. And I don't know if you know this, or I don't even think that many people know this, but this was actually a student film. Like the concept of this was a student film. Because you had the guy that played as Adam, he was still Adam in the student film, and it was just his testimony to the cops of how he escaped the serial killer known as Jigsaw and like it just basically went down this trap, and it was him talking to the cops, and it played just like Amanda's reverse bear trap scene. And so because it plays just like her scene. He sits down, he talks to the cops, explains to them what happened, and then it cuts to him waking up in a dark room with like not even just a TV playing. I think it was the tape recorder that they had, and it was just basically going like, "Hey, I want to play a game, blah 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 blah," and he goes like, you have 60 seconds to unlock this bear trap. That's like this device that's strapped to your head, and then James Wan saw that and went like, I want to make that into a movie. And so I think it was him and like I think it was the person that made that up, like for the student film. I think that they got together and they wrote the story, because I know that James Wan wrote the story, but I don't remember who else was a part of the story for it.
But that's where Lee Winnell
that's how it all came to be, was that he saw that student film and he goes like, I want to like flesh this out and make this into a movie, because I think this was his first movie.
It's like, you got the skeleton of the story, let's put the muscle on.
Yeah. Like, let's beef it up, let's put some characters in there, let's make a story for it, and let's see what happens. So, but yeah, like that was actually really good. And of course I want to get into Ron people. Okay, Ron people. So the way that this works is that I will find reviews on movies that we talk about, especially in this case where this movie is really well received. It's 50% on Rotten Tomatoes for critics, but it's like, I think it was 86% for the audience. So it's a pretty good movie overall. Of course, critics don't really like horror movies. That's just how they are. They go like, oh, it's just a glorified gore fest. Which, I will admit, later on in the series, they just become a real big blood fest for just people getting hacked and slashed and, like, basically body parts flying around. I understand that. I get that. That's why most of the series is, like, very poorly reviewed by audience and critics. Because, like, it's just a gore fest. That's what it is. But here are some Ron people, and we'll get into that. So this user says, just crap from beginning to end. I'll tick this off on my fingers. Something I like to do when a film sucks is horrifically that I find myself shouting at the television in frustration. Yes, I saw it at home. Anyhow, 1. Rip-off / remake of Seven. It's not really. But they said another crap chiller. 2. Carrie Ellis. Please stop acting. 3. The cops. You have guns. The guy in the death trap. Stop screaming at each other unnecessarily and do something about blowing the thing apart. 4. Everything in this film is predictable on people behaving in the stupidest way possible. Ending. You'll see it coming a mile away. Anyone who doesn't should turn on their movie viewers deluxe and go back to watching Love Actually or some stuff like that. Cinematography. People stop shooting movies this way. Basically, he just has a list of stuff that's just wrong with it. Let's go ahead and dissect this one, because this is a giant list of stuff that this guy is just like critiquing. For the time, you didn't see anything like this. Yeah, the acting is a little cheesy at times, but like, what can you expect from like a very low budget horror movie? Because like the acting does get better later on. I honestly think that sometimes it's overacted to where it's just like, okay, I know that you're faking this just because of this fact.
Like, when you look at Adam's character, he's not being acted stupid, he is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think that it's a character that really required too much forethought, because he doesn't think things through.
Yeah. Like the whole thing when they find out that it's a two-way mirror and they break it, and they find out that it's a camera that's recording them. He thinks it's a reality TV. And then he makes a joke about like, yeah, this is the most fun I've had without lubricant. Basically just being like, yeah, it's, bless you, it's insinuating some sort of sexual act, whether that be basically jerking off or shoving something up his butt. It's either way. So
It's probably why he's so sarcastic all the time.
yeah, because originally he doesn't think that it's real, but he still thinks it's real at the same time. And you're like, some people in certain stressful situations, they crack jokes. That's just their way of coping with that situation.
Don't tell me you haven't been in rush hour traffic and been so mad that you literally had to make jokes to make yourself laugh.
Right. Like, I mean, shit, sometimes I'll be driving down the road and I'll hit rush hour traffic, so I'll be singing along. Somebody will do something stupid, and I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. And I'll go back to singing my song. Like that's just what I'll do. But, like, some people, they'll just, like, scream, and they'll just keep screaming, and they won't stop. But otherwise, that's basically what that is. But, yeah, like, the whole thing about, like, being a remake of Seven, they got the idea of doing the traps from Seven. It's not a ripoff, it's not a remake. James Wan got the idea of the traps and stuff from the movie Seven. It's been years since I've seen it, but they also had traps in there. Mm-hmm. So for like the victims I was gonna say Dennis Hoffman again for some odd reason, but Brad Pitt and
Kevin Spacey, I believe.
Kevin Spacey was in that, but it was also Morgan Freeman. That's what I'm thinking of. So yeah, like every case that they would go to of like all the different seven sins, they were in traps, in a degree. So, but yeah, like that's wrong, because like you're stupid if you think this is a Seven remake or Seven ripoff, because it's not. It's really not. And then talking about Cary Elwes. I still don't know how to pronounce his last name. Like, just telling him to stop acting. It's like, yeah, they could have picked somebody else besides him. I don't know why they decided to do that. I think just to put a big name on there besides Donald Glover.
Danny Glover, yeah.
Yeah, Danny Glover. Sorry, I've just been so synonymous with Donald Glover being Childish Gambino, not Danny Glover. Who are not related, believe it or not. But yeah, and then the whole thing with like the cop scene when they're like taking down Jigsaw, it's like, oh, you have guns, just use them. It's all like, yes, if you put any semblance of forward thinking into this, yeah, the whole movie just falls apart, obviously. But in order to captivate on this movie and the sheer fear that these characters are going through and everything like that, yeah, of course, like, they're gonna act stupid because it's a movie. Because, like, again, if we can list all of the different ways that movies could just be done in 2 seconds, we wouldn't have any movies. It's like, well, why doesn't the good guy just go up to the bad guy and just, like, shoot him in the head while he's doing his monologue? It's like, yeah, like, that's easy. But in order to have this be a movie, you kind of need to have it flow through, like, a story that you're reading. Mm-hmm. And it's also the same thing with books. You wouldn't have any reading material if, good guy just catches the bad guy and that's it, and everybody wins. Mm-hmm. So, like, that's the reason why that, just like The Thing, like, stories are as good with villains as much as the good guys. Sometimes the bad guy wins. In this case,
the good guy just does something stupid.
Right. And it's like, in this case, Jigsaw wins because they didn't get through the trap. Like, that's it. That's just what happens. But yeah, and then, like, the whole thing with, like, the ending, sure, like, if you're really synonymous with a bunch of horror movies in general for this, then yeah, like, you can see, like, oh yeah, like, that's clearly Jigsaw, he's orchestrating the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, yeah, but, like, for the time, if you just, like, sit back, relax, and you actually engage with the movie, it's fine. Like, not a lot of movies have to be turn your brain on and engage with the movie of being like, oh yeah, that's this, blah blah blah, start picking it apart. Sometimes movies are just meant to be dumb. Like, you turn your brain off for 2 hours
and have a good
time.
You
just engage with the movie and you have a good time. Like, not everything has to be like an A24 movie where, like, oh yeah, this is what this means and blah blah blah. It's like, no, just turn your brain off, let the story unfold, and just have a good time. Like, don't you just learn how to have a good time? You don't want to just get to the end of this. Like, if that was the case, just fast forward. Okay, cool. I know that this guy's still alive. Okay, cool. Now I'll go back and I'll rewatch it. But
yeah. Should maybe be for this person a 3 if they maybe not a 1.
yeah, like because like even for me, I will sometimes have movies that I will watch, and don't mind me, I'm like looking at the reviews, and I'm like, which is another one that I can do, but they're all pretty lengthy and everything, so I think we'll do that one, and then we'll call it an episode here, but. Yeah, like I've seen certain movies that I give a fair shake to where I like if I didn't like it, yeah, I'll give it like 2.5, 3 stars, but otherwise, like In a Violent Nature, I bought that movie because it was like $5 or $10, and I actually was very curious to watch it because that movie was about the killer's perspective, because it's basically like a Friday the 13th, but just from the killer's perspective. And like audience was divided, but critics loved this movie, so it was like really high on Rotten Tomatoes. So I was like, okay, like I'll watch this because I've seen the trailer a couple times. It looks pretty awesome. Like I'll check it out. So I bought it. I watched it with my wife. We both hated this movie. There was only a few kills that happened in the movie that were really cool. Otherwise, it's slow paced. Like, it's really slow paced because the guy just walks throughout the whole thing. So again, just like Jason from Friday the 13th, from his perspective alone, instead of the campers, is not that interesting because you just see him walking through the forest. You just hear the campers in the background. We gotta leave. We gotta go. Like, he's killing everybody. Blah blah blah. And like he'll eventually catch up to them 30 minutes later. Because then he's like standing off into the background, just watching them behind trees of going like, what are they talking about? So it's like, yeah, that's an interesting concept to have of the killer's perspective. But, I would give that movie 2.5 stars. Just because of the fact that it's slow. It's like slow pacing. The kills, like most of the kills aren't that great. And like the story wasn't that fascinating to me. Like, the concept was fascinating, don't get me wrong. And, like, some of the kills were actually pretty cool. But other than that, I didn't really care for it. So, but, like, I don't know if you've seen movies that, like, you're just like, could have done without this type of thing. But, I don't know.
I mean, I'm not... There's movies where, like, I may not be as interested, but there's always some kind of factor of a movie that I can at least attach to.
Mm-hmm.
But that's definitely not the Saw movies. I enjoy most of the Saw movies.
Yeah, because I definitely think that, like, the first 3 are good. The 10th, like, Saw X is really good. Mm-hmm. That one is really good. Like, I saw that a couple times in theaters, and I'm like, I haven't felt this way in a Saw movie in forever. Because I've seen most of them in theaters. Mm-hmm. I think, like, after 6, the final chapter, I think I saw the rest of them in theaters after that. But, yeah, Saw X was really, really good. I definitely put it up there in like top probably 5 of the Saw movies. I think it's probably like number 2 of my favorite. And of course 1 being number 1 just because that it's synonymous for the whole franchise. But we'll go ahead and give our consensus on the movie. So like I mentioned at the beginning, this is our segment to where we do rent, buy, or skip. And again, rent means that you'll just watch it occasionally. Buy means that you'll just buy it and watch it every chance that you can, and then of course skip, you just watch it once and that's it. So I of course think it's a buy because I have it on Steelbook. I have the whole series on this one, and then I have Saw X as well. I definitely think it's a buy.
Fuck yeah!
What do you think?
I would also put it as a buy.
Fuck yeah!
But I could understand why people would do it as a rent.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say it's like a perennial for me, but I would definitely put it as a buy because I would like to be able to watch these at any time.
Yeah.
Especially the early ones, like the first one. The first one's really, really good in my opinion.
Because, like, some of them I would say, like you can rent them, honestly.
Most of them rents
but the
later.
first one I would definitely say is a buy.
First one is a buy.
Just because of it's not heavy on the gore, it's not heavy on like what the franchise is synonymous with of like basically the gore porn of it all, and like it's actually in depth for the story for what they were trying to tell, and it's just focused on these specific characters that are just trying to again escape an escape room. So, but yeah, so we both give our consensus on a buy.
Fuck yeah!
So, if you haven't already, go and check it out. Go and buy it wherever you can buy movies, probably through Amazon, I would imagine. You guys can buy it on digital as well as a DVD. But yeah, otherwise, I think that's about it, honestly. So, and now I don't even remember how the hell to end these, but thank you all so much for watching. Next week we'll talk about a new movie. Probably wouldn't be a horror movie, I would imagine.
I'm feeling action.
Action? Okay. I know that we talked about actually doing John Wick, so we might do that. If not, it'll be sometime later, but probably John Wick next week. And I will be posting it on social media as well, like on Instagram. If you guys want to watch the movie that we talk about, I will post the movie that we talk about a few days before the episode comes out, so that way you have enough time to actually watch it and engage with us as we're talking about them. But otherwise, I think, honestly, next week we can talk about John Wick. Because that's actually going to be coming up on the 10-year anniversary. And I'm actually going to go see that in theaters tomorrow. So, thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and Instagram. I'll be posting clips on the videos that we talk about for TikTok and Instagram. Be sure to share this video with friends and family that you think might actually want to talk about two chuckleheads, talk about certain movies, or if there's just movies that you really like especially for next week when we're going to be talking about John Wick, or this case with Saw, and just trying to get other people's perspective. If you guys have a movie that you want us to talk about, put it in the suggestions in the comment section below. I will have all of our social media stuff for the podcast in the description for YouTube and also on the Spotify. And be sure to leave a like, and again, if you feel so inclined, give a suggestion for movies, because there are some times where we just don't even have a thing to talk about, and it's just like, okay, well, we'll talk about this movie this week then. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.